Have you ever tried to understand a difficult topic and read the material 2 to 3 times and thought you understood the topic? Then next day your classmate asks you to explain it. And you try to explain it and realize that you did not understand clearly because you keep stumbling. The problem is not your intelligence, but the method you used to understand the concept. One of the best ways to understand and remember a concept is the Feynman technique. It is named after Richard Feynman, a Nobel Prize winning physicist. It has 4 steps. So the 4 steps, the first step is to choose a concept, of course, that you want to understand. The second step is to explain the concept in simple terms, as if you are explaining it to a 10-year-old student. No jargons, but you are getting stuck. Now, the third step is to identify the knowledge gaps. That is where you got stuck. The reason you got stuck is because most of us study by recognition. We read the text and it looks familiar and we thought you know them, but you really did not understand. Now you have to go back to the reading materials and try to understand where you got stuck. I mean, it will probably take a little time. You have to do research. Might have to Google that portion or that concept, and then you try to understand clearly, and then try to fix your knowledge gap. And the fourth step is to now you simplify the concept again using the same way. And the best way to simplify it is using analogies, because analogies are like common ideas that we know, and then we try to connect the complex one to the analogies that kind of everybody, at least a fifth grader, would know. For example, one analogy would be for DNA is the structure of DNA is like a twisted ladder. So I mean that would be easier for a fifth grader to understand. All right, now let's try an example from college biology: photosynthesis and glucose production. Students generally memorize the equation. Stage 1 is the light dependent, as you see in this picture, light dependent reaction, and the second stage is light independent, or sometimes a dark reaction, which is the Kelvin cycle. So you kind of memorize it, but you really didn't understand, and that will be very obvious when you try to explain that this process of photosynthesis to a 10-year-old or somebody that's not familiar with this concept. So now let's explain the photosynthesis in like using simple analogies. So here you have, as we discussed, the two-part process. So the first one is light dependent reaction, where you have the analogy you are using is water wheel energy system. So here is the water wheel, and it's using the chlorophyll is in here. It's using the sunlight and it's splitting the hydrogen H2O, the water, into hydrogen and ions, and it's also the byproduct is oxygen. So the byproduct is oxygen happening, and the hydrogen ion are piling up as a dam here, and then it kind of bursts open and it creates ATP and NADPH. So ATP is like the battery, and NADPH is like a truck that carrying all this electron energy. So now you go to the next part, which is the Kelvin cycle, and here it's the analogy in this case is a carbon bakery, and that assisting or combining the carbon dioxide, which it captures from the air, and then you have that energy, which is the ATP and NADPH, and by basically baking it together, in this example, you are creating glucose or the sugar. So it's kind of a simplified version. You can even as you're explaining to that, you might have to go even deeper into that concept. However, at least as a college freshman level, I think this would be kind of the level of understanding you will have. And then if you need more clarification, of course, you're going to go back and fix those materials, fix where you got stuck again, and then of course you simplify it. And that's how this kind of the Feynman techniques helps you to kind of understand a subject or a complex topics clearly. And this is very so the core idea here is that if you cannot explain the concept in simple language to someone who is not familiar with the concept, say a fifth grader, then you truly did not understand the concept. And use of the analogy is very important because it connects complex concept to a simple model, which is understood by a layperson, such a fifth grader. So this is basically the Feynman technique. And I hope you like the explanation I provided of the Feynman technique. And if you like it, please subscribe and like the video. And put a comment in the comment section indicating where are you listening from. So thank you so much for listening to my video. Thanks.